the basil of the house, the caring, sensible, loving wife, the first woman to embrace Islam, the mother of the believers, Khadijah bint Khuwaylid.
Days passed, and the couple's love increased. Their attachment to each other intensified. The men of Mecca made room for Muhammad among them. They began to consult him on their most complicated matters, making him the home of their secrets and the reservoir of their trusts. When they sat down for a great matter, they called him on, and when they stood up for a noble matter, they did not ignore his opinion. Whenever a place was opened for him among the leaders, Khadijah felt proud and wished that a higher place would be given to him, so that he would be the master of all of Mecca. She was keen to provide him with peace and tranquility, not to make him busy with small matters, and not to make him hear anything that would distract him from great things. She hoped that the days would bind them together with a son who would strengthen the bonds of this familiarity and strengthen the bonds of this love. The days went as well as two spouses wanted from days and nights. When the second year of their marriage had passed, Allah fulfilled what Khadijah had wished for, and Al-Qasim was in his small bed, filling the house with his cries, moving his legs in his cradle, and turning his eyes right and left, filling Muhammad's heart with joy over the male child, whom the Arabs are keen on and marry frequently for, and filling Khadijah's heart with joy over this strong bond that linked her and Muhammad, pleased his heart and completed his and her happiness. Khadijah began calling Muhammad Abul-Qaasim, and he was happy about this new nickname. Also, people began calling him by it, and he was happy about it. In Khadijah's ear, this nickname became sweet music. Her heart opened to life whenever she heard people calling her husband by it. For Al-Qasim was her son and Muhammad's son, and the first fruit of this love and that sincerity. As each day passed, Muhammad's greatness increased in Mecca, and people's admiration and appreciation for him increased. There was hardly a day without a problem that Muhammad fixed, or a sound opinion that he offered. He used to sit in Dar al-Nadwa with the people sitting there, but he was very silent and committed to dignity. He favored the oppressed over the oppressor, supported what was right and rejected what was wrong. He did not compliment anyone and did not show favoritism toward a relative or friend. No good deed was offered unless he strived to achieve it and encouraged people to do it. Not a year had passed since Al-Qasim's birth, and Zainab was in her cradle, smiling at her parents, babbling them, and looking at them with her small innocent eyes. Khadijah was happy because she bore Muhammad a son and a daughter. But Al-Qasim stayed in bed one day, complaining of an illness he suffered from. So Khadijah hurried to nurse him, seeking help from those who knew how to treat illnesses and prescribe medicine, while Muhammad was beside her, helping her and looking sadly at this little boy, whose illness was severe and the medicine was not working for him. Khadijah was confused, looking at the sky and thinking about this little boy who was withering in front of her, and she was unable to save him from what he was in. He was rushing to the end, and all of her money was unable to repel what had befallen him. She sought help with what was eaten, what was drunk, the amulets put on, the gods set up around Al-Kaaba, those who use incantation, and the clever doctors. She gave whomever would cure Al-Qasim whatever money they wanted, and whenever she looked at her little one as he was withering like the branch of a tree from which the water was withheld and the heat was intense, her heart almost exploded. Then her grief intensified when she looked at her husband and saw him sad, pitying the child because of the approaching end. She wished she had endured the shock alone without him, or that a miracle would save this little one from the claws of death. But Allah's decree is beyond every hand, and His power is beyond all powers. No medicine could treat Al-Qasim. His breath continued without stopping. He opened his eyes and then closed them, and he surrendered his spirit to his Creator. Then Khadijah's heart split into two halves, and the earth turned with her. She remembered her husband, so she took patience, so that he would be patient, and she held back her tears in her eyes. But she saw his eyes tearing up, saw her eyes filled with tears, and she said while looking at him, "It is Allah's decree, O Muhammad, and nothing prevents what Allah has decreed. We were not stingy with our effort or money. Was it in our power to return Al-Qasim when Allah had chosen him?" Then they got up and wrapped the little boy in his shroud, carried him, and placed him in his grave. They returned home, and Khadijah begged Allah to compensate her for Al-Qasim with a son would alleviate the grief in Muhammad's heart and take away sadness from it. As the days of giving birth approached, she begged her Lord to grant her a son until she went into labor. So her plea to her Lord increased, but she gave birth to Ruqayya. So she begged her Lord that she would give birth to a boy after her, but she gave birth to Kulthum. Then she begged Allah to grant her a son, and He gave her Fatima. This saddened her heart, and she looked at Muhammad with great sorrow and clear sadness. But she saw him taking great care of his daughters and loving them very much, so that eased some of her feelings. After that, she did not give birth to a girl or a boy, and she no longer thought about a girl or a boy. She saw her husband's kindness to her, his sympathy for her, and his appreciation for her. She found him interested in thinking and pondering Allah's creation. He occupied his heart with the highest assembly and what was in it, and occupied his time with Allah's creatures, consoling the weak and the necessitous, opening his heart to the beggars and the deprived, defending the oppressed who were enslaved by people, and striving for goodness, love, and peace. Then she saw that he tended towards isolation and cutting off from people, so she provided him with peace and tranquility. He had his own place in the house to be alone in it, and she acted on his behalf, fulfilling needs and comforting the afflicted. This great house lived for 14 years in peace and tranquility, in which no idle talk or obscene words were heard, and nothing was heard in it except greetings, yeses, welcomes, and voices raised to the heavens, praying for glory and continued blessings for its people. As Muhammad approached 40, Khadijah saw on his face the signs of prophecy increasing day after day, and in his words the signs of the message growing day after day. He used to tell her about his vision in his sleep when he woke up, and not a day or even part of a day would pass until this vision came true in its entirety as he had seen it, as if it was repeating itself ladder by ladder. So Khadijah became happier. Her hope for her husband's prophethood increased, and she took more care of him and ensured his comfort. He felt that the serenity of his soul was increasing, and she felt that serenity and radiance which appeared in his features. She was pleased whenever she saw him striving against himself and holding it accountable. He chose one of the mountains of Mecca, which was difficult to climb, called Mount Hira, at a distance of 2 parasangs, so that he could retreat there for a full month every year. When the month of Ramadan approached, he prepared his little provisions, such as barley, salt, oil, or dates, and what was sufficient for him of water. Then he walked to that mountain and ascended a rugged road to its summit until he reached a cave on that high peak, where he took refuge, cut off from people, and lived there as an ascetic, looking to Allah, far from the world and its noise, from people and their lies, deceit, cheating, and ill speech, from everything that distracted a person from Allah and from thinking about his work. When Ramadan ended, he would return to Khadijah exhausted. Then he would find warmth in her tender heart that took away the pain in him, restored him to his strength, and made the trouble he found easy. She used to wipe away his worries with her gentle words, remove his trouble with her pure, satisfied smile, encourage him to do what he was drawn to, and make this trouble easy in his eyes. She wished that she was with him, looking from above Hira at the peaks of the high mountains and the narrow roads between them, seeing the sky and its stars and clarity, enjoying peace and tranquility away from the noise and bustle of Mecca, and spending an entire month in this spiritual enjoyment in which he lived. When the end of the year came and the month of Ramadan approached, she prepared for him what he wanted for that journey, and showed him happiness that encouraged him. So he walked to Hira, as he had walked before, and he was provided with many of her nice words, tenderness, and kindness. As the days progressed, her heart became more open. The hope that she had been waiting for and longing for came closer to her soul, and she was filled with joy when she saw the signs of prophecy becoming more evident in her husband and shining in his face, his words, and his signs. She hoped to Allah that she would live until she saw that day when Allah would allow her to be the wife of the Prophet. Khadijah became busy with Muhammad and what he was doing. Her heart became attached to him in the house, in the cave, or among the masters of Mecca, until it was one of the nights of Ramadan, and Muhammad was in the cave of Hira. Khadijah went to the cave to be reassured about him, but to her surprise, she did not find him. Where did he go? That story will be told in our next episode.